has facilitated just through that. Just through that. There are other struggles, no doubt. There are other struggles, no doubt. But how then do we take that and think about it in this idea of God consciousness, which also is a very beautiful word. Because taqwa is from waqa. And waqa literally means to shield oneself from a blow. Like if someone is to strike you, that's what waqa. So what is the correlation then between taqwa and warding off a blow? It says that you have actions that are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that ward off His displeasure with you. So to live a life in that way, that yeah, are we going to make mistakes? We are going to make mistakes. Are we going to fall short? We are going to fall short because that is our nature. We are not angels. We are not angels. We're going to make mistakes. One is, and this is mashallah, and I forgot who was saying this last night, is to be able to have rahmah with ourselves. Because we'll affirm all of the ayat of rahmah, we'll affirm all of the hadith of rahmah, we'll talk about rahmah for other people, but the hardest, what I've seen over the years in the conversations that I've had with students, is having mercy for ourselves. It's having mercy for ourselves. And understanding that I'm a work in progress. And bi'idhnillah, by the promise of Allah, by the guidance of the guy that He sent, alayhi salatu wassalam, inshallah I will make it. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there to see me through this project, i.e. Islam, and getting to a place in a state where He is pleased with me, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the things that, as I said, of just thinking about this, of this taqwa, of us walking around here, I just want to use an example of something of light, of this kind of practical application here, of just something I'm going to ask you to do. Let's take wudu for a moment. Let's take wudu. Wudu, waw, dad, alif, maqsura, are the same letters in the word do. Dad, waw, alif, maqsura. So what's the correlation between them? Light and water. Light and water. Because we're talking about this lamp, and we're talking about God consciousness into everyday life. I'm going to ask every single one of you that is in this room right now, and then also you convey this to. I'm going to challenge you right now, that from this point forward, you will not allow yourself to be not in a state of wudu. It's a challenge I'm throwing out right now. Why? We have a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, where he says on Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أمتي يدعون يوم القيامة غرا محجلين من آثار الوضوء. So the Prophet ﷺ says to Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, Abu Hurairah relates this on the Prophet ﷺ, and it continues, and then we'll talk about that second half. He says, my nation on Yawm al-Qiyamah will come shining bright min athar al-wudu, from the traces and radiance of where they used to make wudu. Now how did this happen? In the narration, Abu Hurairah says, Ya Rasulullah, there will be so many people on Yawm al-Qiyamah, how will you know us? How will you know us? And he says that, Ya Abu Hurairah, like how do you know, he says here, the mugharra, this is interesting, he uses the word gharra muhajjilin. It's actually a specific name for a type of horse. And it's a horse that has distinctive markings on its forelock and on its, what we would call maybe our wrists, if you will, at the joints. And it was by the distinction of these markings that they would know their horse. And he said, just like that, I will see you. And then he narrates the hadith. I have a blue Prius. Or my wife does anyway. Everyone in California has a blue Prius. So how is it when I go to the store that I know where my blue Prius is? How would I know? The whole parking lot of blue Priuses, how would I know? My car key, yeah, what would it do? Okay, but say I forgot my car key, what would I do? License plate, right? So there's a trace, there's something now that distinguishes it from the others. Now, in the hadith, and it continues and says, فَمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ فَلْيُ He says here that the one of you who can lengthen it, then he should do so. Lengthen it, and then the scholars talk about it, says, because normally we should make wudu up to the elbow, increase by 3 fingers to ensure that the area is done. Abu Hurairah was known to make it up to the middle of between the elbow and the shoulder, and he would make it on his ankle, from the ankle halfway up from the shin to the knee. Why? And this is what I think about this idea of putting God consciousness into our everyday actions. Why would he say that? Why would he say that? Not a rhetorical question, I'm waiting.
To leave no doubt.
To leave no doubt, okay. What else you think? Sister, just nailed a 3 from half court, bang. So he would be glowing more. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I want you to see me. I want you to see me. So from that guidance, and that's what I'm asking you right now, do not let a day pass. Don't let a moment in your life pass. It's something as simple as this. I'm not asking you to get up and pray 100 rak'ahs. I'm not asking you to fast Monday and Thursday and the white days and the 10 days of Muharram and these types of things. Just be able to. Just be able to. Because I want to shine bright. I want to shine bright. I want to be. I was going to say lit, but I'm going to be glowing. Trisyllabic word was a little bit difficult. I was just thinking single syllable. It would have been easier, but this idea of just grabbing something from the tradition that seems so simple, and how many times have we done that? And then also to have this cognition, right? Have young children. I walk into the bathroom to make wudu. It looks like there was a Disney show, Water World, inside of the bathroom. It's on the ceiling, it's on the mirrors, it's all over the walls. I'm like, what are y'all doing? To not have that relationship, but to have the adab with the wudu, because this is what it's going to be, a vehicle for me on Yawm al-Qiyamah. How would we treat that? What type of respect would I give to that? And then you add the beauty of the du'as. We know the du'as before, but how about the du'as during? Very simple. Very simple. Washing our hands, Ya Allah. Don't allow these hands to move towards anything that is displeasing towards you. Oh Allah, don't let this mouth, as I rinse my mouth out, to say things which are displeasing to you. Oh Allah, keep this mouth, this tongue moist and dhikr. Oh Allah, don't let me smell the fragrance of Jannah. Now I'm being present. I'm from California. Well, I'm not actually. I'm from Massachusetts. But I live in California. And right now, everything is about mindfulness. Mindfulness. And I got my yoga mat. Mindfulness. Be mindful. Namaste. And all of this other stuff. How about our tradition? How about our tradition? How about being present? Just think that when I put water on my face, I'm going to say, Ya Allah, allow my face to shine bright on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So I can have that honor of glowing at the beatific gaze of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that I would miss out on that. Of something as simple as just ensuring, I ask you, please take this with me right now. Take this with me. Make this promise to yourself, just to remain in wudu. Just to remain in wudu. And have that be the takeaway from this God consciousness into everyday life. Oh Allah, allow me to have my book of deeds in my right hand. Make it easy for me. Oh Allah, never allow me to have my book in my left hand, O wara al-dhahri, as Allah says in the Quran. Right? فَمَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابُهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسِبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. Because the one who receives his book in his right hand will have an easy record. Never want it in the left hand. Oh Allah, we wipe our heads. Oh Allah, cover me. Right? Underneath the shade of the throne, on a day when there is no shade except your shade. And then the feet, Ya Allah, don't allow these feet to stumble on the sirat. Just something as simple as that. See if it changes the state of presence, because one of my teachers said that the first thing that you wash and cleanse in wudu is your heart, to prepare you to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we're just running through some formulaic motions, throwing some water on some limbs, up, down, kiss the ground, out of town in terms of our salat, we don't even remember what we prayed or what we did. Now, I got that from Chodabai. Chodabai was an old man that I met when I took my Shahada in Cape Town. He said, Dawood, and I had just become Muslim, don't pray the salat of the chicken. I said, Chodabai, what is salat of the chicken? He said, up, down, kiss the ground, out of town. But you live with these things. You live with these things, right? You live with them, and they stick with you. And there are wisdoms that inshaAllah will pass on to others. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And so if we think about this again, now I want to ask you about wudu. Because wudu is also a shield. It is preparation for war, in my opinion. Now why did I say war? Because I need to ask you, what is the word in Arabic for prayer niche? Mihrab. Mihrab. And its roots would be what? Did you ever think about that? What's the relationship between the prayer niche and war? What's the relation? We're in a spiritual war. We're in a spiritual war right now. So the mihrab is a place where you go to do battle. So how do you want to show up for battle? If you don't have to prepare, and you are prepared, then you can knock down 2 rak'ats when you need them. You can grab the mushaf when you need it. So that's what I'm talking about, this preparation. I've been stuck in between borders and other places like this. Alhamdulillah, I'm in wudu. I knocked out 2 rak'ats, tabarakallah. I'll tell you situations that were wild. I'm having people at borders pull up a picture of, I don't know if I can even say this name anymore. Maybe it's okay, maybe enough time has passed, but Osama bin Laden, I don't know if I can say that name anymore. Holding it up to my face and asking them, like I don't understand English because I have an American passport, if I'm this guy. And as soon as I'm finished with that, what do you think I'm going to do? Excuse me, do you have a bathroom where I can make wudu? No, I'm in a state of wudu, so I'm ready. And I'm going to pray my 2 rak'ahs, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His justice and His protection, because I want to be ready so I don't have to get ready. And by being ready so I don't have to get ready, I don't know also what I'm going to meet Allah. Not to be morbid, but to be real. But to be real. So these are the things that we can think about in terms of just small things. Small things that have a tremendous reward. Small things that have a tremendous reward. And then this idea of wudu, this light, once again, you know where that light takes you in the night? Anyone? Where does that light take us in the night if we go to sleep? It says that the soul travels to the arsh, the one who sleeps in a state of wudu, and prostrates and remains there until it wakes up. This is just something very simple and subtle that how many classes have we taken in wudu? How many times have we studied wudu since we were a child? How many times have we connected this, the meanings of this? But to move, to understand this now at a deeper level. And these are the things that once you begin to connect them, then they change. They change. As I'm learning these things, as I'm a new Muslim, I'm stepping into these things. These literally are life changes for me. And these become the principles now that I want to live by and die by. These become the principles that I want to live by. These are the lights now. These are the lanterns. These are the ayah, the hadith, the stories, the suhbah, right? For the hope that inshallah ta'ala, that if I act upon these, that it's Allah who's promised the success for this. And that's just one small example in terms of how we can, incorporate these actions in our life to move out of that ulumat to the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how He avails Himself to us, which at times is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I look at the journey that I've been able to have, and I look where you are, and I have so much hope for you all. Because you are light years ahead of where I was. You are light years ahead of where I was. And I think about this, in terms of this gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this idea of what we are afforded, this God consciousness, and where it takes us. And you can see I'm struggling right now because I lost my train of thought. I just had something I wanted to tell you, and now I can't think of it. I just gave you a snapshot into my mind. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran ya rabbil alameen. Allah. But to get us back to this point then, this idea, this thought, this hope for the success that you all have and where you will bring this inshallah ta'ala. It's just an incredible moment. I think that, the young man that picked me up today, he said that, I said, what's your biggest takeaway of the DEEN intensive this weekend? He just said the number of people that are here. The number of people. Actually, give yourselves a shout out to that. You know what I mean? Give yourself that you showed up. Alhamdulillah, it's DEEN. You showed up. It's Iman. You showed up. Tabarakallah, may Allah bless you and increase you in that. But as I said, again, as I think about this idea of incorporating this God consciousness from the dhulumat, ila nur, that we have these moments of reflection to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us out, but yet it takes work. It takes work. And as, we were talking about this idea of taqwa and these other things, it's really a game of trust. It's really a game of trust. We have these promises here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do these things for us, but the question is how much we will trust Allah in these moments. And I think that, as we move through here and as we grow through here, that as we begin to trust Him more, then we will, have the ability to have that trust be greater, in our reliance upon Him. So let's open it up for questions at this point. I've lost my train of thought. May Allah, forgive me for that. I'm just being completely transparent with you, and just kind of open it up. Maybe if you have questions, we can ask, and we can move forward with that, and maybe the conversation can flow a little better from there. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا يا رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah. Yes, sir.
I really like what you said about the first thing we must wash and will do is our heart.
Yeah.
Do you have any practical tips for how to do that?
Yeah. So, mashallah, one of the things that I think about is removing like forgiving folks and overlooking things and understanding what is for your nafs and what is for, truth, so to speak. And I'll give you an example. We were in Damascus, and this young boy came up and he had a straw, and he took a fava bean and he, like a spitball, bam, right in the eye, on the street. And I was like, and my friend went like this, and he stopped me and he laughed. And he said, Dawood, are you going to take this boy to task when Allah hasn't taken him to task because his book is not even open yet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So you have these moments of reflection. And as the heart is open to these types of things, you have to think, okay, why did I respond that way? So at each of those moments, you're now asking yourself, why did I respond that way? Why did I feel envious when that person mentioned someone else's name? Why did I feel like I had to lie to big myself up over somebody else? So these are the practical steps to begin to wash that heart and rid oneself of those things. And you actually take note of it. You actually I sat with a notebook and wrote these things down. Why did I feel this way when my name wasn't mentioned? MashaAllah, so-and-so is really good at what they're doing, stuff like that. My nafs is going, I'm right here, you don't see me? Why is my nafs doing that? Because I want recognition. But did I do it then for the recognition, or did I do it for Allah? Because if I did it for the recognition, think about this. That the people who did it for the recognition, when they come to Allah, there's no reward. Because Allah said, you sought your recognition, it was given to you, you have no part with me. I lost. I took a big L on that. So now you begin to understand these things. What's at stake? What will I potentially lose as a result of this? Right? Then you begin to train the heart in that way to let those things go. And it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, because I want to say this to you as well too. It's a great question. Is that we have to think about this in the context of you're not going to remain, you're not just going to arrive at a point. And the verse that I talked about لا يكلف نفسا إلا وسعها, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, is really important, because I think about this. A lot of times someone comes into my office saying, Imam Dawood, I've got the situation, I can't handle it, I can't think about it, I can't go forward. And I would say to them, pump the brakes, just hold on for a moment. Because normally what they're saying is, who I was, I couldn't handle this. When I hear these types of things, and I hear people speak this way, it's because normally what is you're experiencing is you literally are experiencing a leveling up from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He's now giving you a test which you haven't seen before, because He knows that the tests on the level that you were at before, you've passed them. You're not going to have the same types of questions that you had in organic chemistry in the first semester that you're going to have in the second semester, right or wrong. It's going to be a different set of questions, correct? And could you have answered those questions in the first semester? Yes or no? You couldn't, because there's requisite knowledge that was needed and required for that. So just like that, Allah then levels you up. But we're thinking about the situation that we were. I will not be able to handle this. But we're not thinking about what Allah has given me. I have a whole new set. So it's almost like you're starting over again now at this place. And that's very important for us to understand and to realize Allah's not going to leave us. Because if He did put us in a situation that we're unable to handle, it would constitute oppression. And He says about Himself that He doesn't oppress. So you have to think about it in that context. Think about it in that context. Everything that I'm experiencing right now, and I'm not trying to belittle it in any way. I know struggles are real. I know struggles are very real for people. When you've done this for 26 years and you've sat with people and you've heard their stories, trust me, I get it. I get it. But what I'm trying to say is that this, what we're experiencing through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, facilitating means for us to become a better version of ourselves. And each time that we try to avoid what He has put in front of us, it will just come to us in a different iteration. Come to us in a different iteration. So when we think about this growth, when we think about this moving, when we think about going forward, that's the context in lesson that we want to think about that. Shukran. Yes?
Yeah, so I really appreciated the advice to try to maintain a state of wudu, but my understanding is it was also sunnah to try to remake wudu like right before prayer. So my question kind of is the priority list kind of that whenever we have the opportunity, we should still strive to like make wudu before our salat, even if we're trying to maintain that state of wudu, or like where does that fit in?
You can, yeah, absolutely. And here's my thought on what you're saying. You may have that intention to do it, but you may not be able to, but you want to. Just like the person whose heart is connected with the masjid, they want to be in it, but they can't. But if they had the opportunity, they would. I can't make wudu right now, but if I had the opportunity, I would be able to. But also don't make those excuses, right? Like, oh, if I could just, didn't have this, whatever to do right now, I wouldn't do it. Like, is that real? Like, am I physically being prevented from doing it right now? That's the question. And if I am, okay, that's fine. But what you're saying, there's also, so that would be my answer to what you're talking about. But yes, that would be good. And there is nothing wrong with actually making it over wudu that you already have as well too, right? So that would be something that is there. But this idea of, it's more of a discipline of of oneself to be attached to this, to this, because I've also seen negligence where it's completely forgotten. It's completely forgotten. Not even an afterthought about it, and then not really knowing the benefits of remaining in it. So, alhamdulillah, thank you. Yes.
So how can we bring that mindfulness into other actions that we have, like small actions of ibadah? How can we bring that mindfulness? Because a lot of times it becomes easy to just start performing those actions as habits and not like having that mindfulness.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think that, let me take it back. If we talk about salat, for example. If we talk about salat, the first thing that I think about is like the adhan and this calling of Allahu Akbar. Like really, it's to say that Allah is Akbar of anything and everything that I'm doing at this moment. And this idea of the adhan, which is also, if there are young professionals in here or students in your, think about your salat in this way. The adhan, again, this is the idea, in my opinion, of this God consciousness, is that the root word from adhan is idhin, which means to have permission. So literally, the call to prayer is that you have permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray. If you have permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray, you do not ask anybody on the face of this planet if you can pray. Kindly inform them that you have to pray, and you move forward in that. So that's the first step of introduction of the adhan, and that relationship that we then have with it. Then I would say number two is, as we are kind of moving through all of these motions of the day and doing these things, that the sunnah salat actually, before the fard, that the sunnah then creates this buffer to almost prepare us. And I think of it, if you will, athletically, that becomes the stretching, that becomes the warm-up before I actually engage in my activity. Because as I want to move into my activity, I need to be ready for it. So now I need to be ready. That heart needs to be centered. Now I've had almost like a practice set. I've had a practice rep to get where I want to. That's the sunnah salah, if you will. I'm speaking metaphorically. I hope no one takes that the wrong way. Now I'm going to be in a better state where I was, because I've recognized that Allah has told me that it is now time to have my time with Him, which is really beautiful. And I'll mention this because we're in this Isra and Miraj, where people have said, this is something I feel is very beautiful here, I'll just name it, is that the Isra and Miraj of the believer actually happens 5 times a day as we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray. So just having this consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these things of what we're doing, and also connected to what Imam Suhaib was talking about last night, is to read and to know. Right? To read and to know. What does it mean? What does it mean when I say Allahu Akbar? What does it mean? Allah is greater in a physical sense? Like, what does that mean to me? What does it mean to me? And that's the point that I wanted to make. And I'm going to go a little bit off track right here, because I actually remember what I wanted to say. But I lost it, if you'll permit me. When Sheikh Suhaib last night was talking about the converts and that there's exploration, right? What I want to say to you is that so many times in my life, I heard, oh, I wish I had the iman of a convert. I wish I had the iman of a convert. I wish I had the iman of a convert. I categorically reject. And the gentleman says to me, hey, why don't you come in and pray with us? I said, I just wanted to sit here and listen to the adhan, if that's okay. He said, yeah, why don't you come and pray? I said, I'm not Muslim. He said, that's okay. You just pray next to me. So you can actually say that you know an imam, that their first salat they made was with no wudu. So I went in the masjid, he was like, just stand next to me and pray. I didn't make wudu, I stood next to him and I prayed. Now, why do I say this? Because in between Maghrib and Isha, he said, hey, we're going to pray again. If you want to pray with us, you can stay inside the masjid. I said, okay. So I stayed. And in that time, in that darkness, if you will, of internally, this is when all of this waswas that's coming in. Because I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm going back to my cousin now telling me don't die except for La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I believe in the Prophet ﷺ. I believe Allah is one. I believe in the Prophet ﷺ. I believe in angels. I believe in books. I said to myself, why am I not Muslim? As soon as I said that, Shaitan said, whoa, 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 whoa. You're a good person. You don't lie to your mother. You don't cheat. You don't steal. I'm like, yeah, okay. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that you then have to, at that moment, you have to put all of those things that I just mentioned on one side of that scale. You have to ask yourself, why do I believe in what I believe in? Why do I keep doing these things that I know are detrimental to me? Why do I keep being in this darkness? And then make that choice of when I'll stop. When will I stop? Because the thing that Shaitan got was he gave me a whole list of what I was going to miss out on. And it wasn't until I came to the light that I understood and I learned of all of the things that I would gain. And it's not even comparable. It's not even comparable. And here's the thing I'll tell you, because I asked my cousins, I distinctly remember this. I was driving, we were in Boston, I was in the front seat of this truck with my cousin. I was about 10 or 12 years old. I asked my cousin, I said, Isa, if this Islam isn't true, then what? He says, well, if it isn't true, he said, I'm happy that I live a dignified life. If it's all just dust after this, he said, I enjoy, and that's it, I enjoy the way that I live right now. And I lived in a way, just to open up to you very quickly, I lived in a way that many people read about. I'll share this with you right now. I worked as a fashion model for 5 years before I was Muslim. I dropped out of college, moved to New York City, I lived in London, I lived in Paris, I lived in Milan, Germany, Tokyo, did New York shows for GQ, on the runway, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. It's not, it's pre-internet, so you can't find it, alhamdulillah. But my point is, what I'm trying to say is that even with all of that, even if you promised me all of that, if you promised me the people, I was with people that were making $5K an hour at 19 years old. $5K an hour at 19 years old. Like, that's the life that we're in. Access to parties, people, anything you know, that's what we're in. And if you ask me, could I go back to that at the highest level for anything, you couldn't tempt me enough, inshallah ta'ala. You couldn't tempt me enough of what I've tasted now with La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You can't, anything now that I've seen from this light is incomparable. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Of someone who's walked at that level on the other side, who stands with you now to tell you that in complete honesty. Not in any type of hyperbolic speech or anything like that. Not trying to sell myself or anything, but just telling you the gift that every single one of us has, which is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And if we find ourselves in those darknesses, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there to facilitate us and to bring us into that light. And it's a promise that He has for every single one of us, irrespective of our state. Because for me, that was the greatest takeaway. Reading the Quran for me was the greatest takeaway, and I did read the autobiography. So you have so many people, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I said, yeah, you know why? It's a crazy story. Imam Zayd, if you know who he is, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, if you know Imam Zayd Shakir. Imam Zayd was my professor in college before I was even Muslim. I met Imam Zayd Shakir in 1989 as an undergrad. And I actually read Malcolm X that semester. So to me, the whole story of the Quran is that every single person is redeemable in front of God. Every single person is redeemable in front of God. That's the message. And that's the message that we should carry. That's the message of hope. That's the message of light. And that anyone that wants to tell us otherwise, then they should be people that will come out of the darkness because they don't know their Lord. They don't know the generosity and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we make just a small effort to move towards Him. When we make just a small effort. Alhamdulillah, I think that may be it for time. I appreciate you all. Alhamdulillah, may Allah increase you. May Allah give you tawfiq. May Allah continue to open up. May Allah bless DI. May Allah increase DI. May Allah increase you. I have so much hope for you all. May Allah bless you. Inshallah, allow you to realize all of your aspirations, dreams, and goals. Inshallah ta'ala. I thank you. I ask you to forgive me for my shortcomings. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran ya Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
جزاك الله خيرا إمام داوود ياسين.